When we talk about self-respect in the context of relationships, we must recognize that it is the foundation of everything. If you find yourself begging, chasing, or playing games, it often signals a lack of this crucial element. True self-respect means understanding your own worth and not compromising your values to gain someone else's attention or affection. It's about knowing that you deserve more than just crumbs of someone's time or affection. When we compromise on our self-respect, we begin to settle for less than we deserve, and that can lead to frustration, emotional burnout, and feelings of unfulfillment. Begging for attention, love, or validation is not just draining emotionally, it can also be damaging to our sense of self. It shifts the power dynamic in any relationship, putting you in a position where you feel like you need to prove your worth continuously. When you constantly seek approval or affection, you're telling yourself that your own value is determined by someone else's response. But the truth is, your worth isn't something that should ever be conditional upon another person's mood or attention. You are worthy simply because you are you. Chasing after someone for their affection or attention is another behavior that signals a lack of self-respect. When you're chasing someone, you may feel like you're putting in all the effort, but the reality is that you're doing all the work to make something happen that might not even be mutual. Healthy relationships involve reciprocity, not a one-sided pursuit. When we chase after someone who isn't equally invested, we lose sight of our own needs and desires. This often results in disappointment as we end up seeking validation from someone who may not value us in the same way. The idea of not playing games in relationships is closely tied to self-respect. Games often involve manipulation, playing hard to get, or pretending to be someone you're not. These tactics may provide temporary excitement, but they can also create confusion, misunderstanding, and distrust. Games don't allow for true intimacy as they keep both individuals at arm's length. Instead of getting to know each other on a deeper level, people are caught up in trying to win over the other or gain the upper hand. When we stop playing games, we free ourselves to be genuine, to be open, and to invite others to do the same. By setting healthy boundaries and not engaging in these behaviors, we protect our emotional well-being. Self-respect involves understanding that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. When you stop begging for attention or chasing after someone who isn't interested, you are making space for the right people to enter your life. People who will value you for who you truly are, not for who you pretend to be or what you can give them. It's about recognizing that you don't need anyone else to complete you, and you certainly don't need to chase after someone who doesn't see your worth. In the end, no one should have to beg for love or affection, and no one should feel like they have to chase after it. Self-respect means knowing that the right relationships come from mutual understanding, equal effort, and honest communication. It's about walking into every connection with your head held high, confident in who you are and what you bring to the table. And when you truly understand and honor your self-respect, you'll find that the people who are meant to be in your life will naturally gravitate toward you. A genuine connection in any relationship is built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared values. It's important to realize that a real bond can never be forced. When we engage in behaviors like begging, chasing, or playing games, we are essentially trying to manipulate the situation to create something that isn't naturally there. Real relationships don't come from pressure or tactics. They come from authentic communication and the willingness of two people to invest in each other equally. Too often we confuse convenience or temporary attraction with a meaningful connection. We might be inclined to text endlessly or chase after someone because we feel an instant spark, but that initial excitement doesn't necessarily translate into a lasting bond. Genuine connections take time to grow and develop, and they are based on a deep understanding and appreciation of each other's values, interests, and emotions. When we rush things or try to force them, we risk missing out on the chance to really get to know someone for who they are. And we may end up wasting energy on something that isn't truly compatible with our own needs and desires. Engaging in excessive texting or chasing signals, a lack of trust in the process of letting a relationship develop naturally. Constant communication can sometimes mask insecurity or a fear of being alone. If someone is truly interested in you, they will naturally reach out and make time for you. By over-communicating or constantly chasing someone, you're essentially chasing after their attention and affection rather than letting them come to you willingly. It's important to recognize that these kinds of behaviors are not indicators of love or interest. They're signs of desperation, which can push the other person away. Relationships that are based on these actions often feel more like a struggle than a connection. The key to fostering a genuine connection is creating space for both individuals to be themselves. When we let go of the need for constant texting or the desire to chase after someone, we give ourselves the freedom to engage in a more authentic way. Relationships grow best when both people feel comfortable being their true selves, without fear of rejection or needing to perform. If you're spending your time trying to craft the perfect text or looking for signs that the other person likes you, you're not allowing the relationship to unfold organically. Instead, you're focusing more on appearances and validation than on true connection. True connections are about more than surface-level interactions. They're about understanding each other on a deeper emotional level. It's not about how many texts you send or how often you reach out. It's about the quality of the time spent together and how you both feel when you're around each other. The most meaningful connections are often the ones that happen when you're not trying so hard to make them work. When you stop playing games and stop chasing after someone, you create the space for something more real to emerge. A genuine connection can only occur when two people are willing to meet each other halfway and show up as their authentic selves. When you stop begging for attention, chasing after affection, or engaging in games, you allow room for trust, vulnerability, and real intimacy to flourish. It's in these moments that you'll find the relationships that are worth pursuing, the ones that make you feel seen, heard, and valued for who you truly are. Relationships built on authenticity are always more fulfilling and long-lasting. Understanding your worth is one of the most important steps in creating healthy relationships, and it starts with recognizing that you are enough just as you are. When you know your value, you stop settling for less than what you deserve. This confidence in your self-worth shifts your perspective on relationships and allows you to make choices that are aligned with your values and goals. Too often, we find ourselves chasing after people who don't appreciate us or begging for affection, all because we don't fully realize how much we have to offer. When you truly understand your worth, you stop seeking validation from external sources. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself or seek constant reassurance from others about your value. Self-worth comes from within, and it isn't contingent on how others treat you. When we depend on others to define our worth, we put ourselves in a vulnerable position. This often leads to feeling unfulfilled or unappreciated because the other person may not be capable of recognizing your true value. If you wait for someone else to validate your worth, you may be waiting forever. One of the biggest mistakes we can make in relationships is tying our self-esteem to how someone else feels about us. If we are constantly looking for approval or affection, we may end up compromising our own needs and desires in order to get that validation. This dynamic creates a power imbalance, where one person holds the power to make you feel good or bad about yourself. In this situation, your worth becomes conditional on someone else's actions, and that's never a healthy foundation for any relationship. Understanding your worth also means recognizing that you deserve love and respect in return. Relationships should never be one-sided, where you're doing all the giving and the other person isn't equally invested. When you know your worth, you stop chasing after someone who doesn't give you the attention, affection, or respect you deserve. You're no longer willing to settle for crumbs or play games to get someone's attention. Instead, you start to attract people who see you for who you really are and who are willing to give just as much as they receive. When you know your worth, you also know what you bring to the table in a relationship. You can be confident in what you have to offer without feeling the need to prove it. You don't have to beg someone to see your value or chase after them to win their affection. You know that you have qualities, experiences, and talents that make you special, and you don't need to seek approval or perform to get someone's attention. The right people will be drawn to you because they appreciate you for who you are, not because you've convinced them of your worth. The more you value yourself, the less you tolerate behavior that doesn't align with your standards. You will no longer accept being treated poorly, and you will know when it's time to walk away from relationships that aren't serving you. When you understand your own value, you set healthy boundaries that protect your emotional well-being, and this leads to more fulfilling and balanced relationships. In the end, when you truly understand and appreciate your worth, you stop chasing after people who aren't ready to give you what you deserve. You start investing in relationships where your value is recognized and celebrated, and you attract those who are capable of appreciating the incredible person that you are. When we talk about avoiding manipulation and power plays in relationships, it's important to understand that these behaviors can quickly erode trust and create an unhealthy dynamic. Relationships that rely on manipulation or playing games are not built on honesty or mutual respect. Instead, they focus on control, creating emotional confusion and uncertainty. These tactics, whether intentional or not, often push people away rather than bringing them closer together. True connections in relationships can only occur when both individuals show up with authenticity, without needing to resort to games to win the other's attention or affection. Manipulation in any form undermines the foundation of a healthy relationship. It's about trying to influence someone's feelings or actions by creating doubt, guilt, or confusion. This may involve playing on their emotions, using passive-aggressive behavior, or even using silence as a tool for control. While it may seem effective in the short term, manipulation never fosters genuine closeness or respect. Instead, it leads to resentment, distrust, and emotional exhaustion. Over time, the person being manipulated may feel like they can't trust their own instincts or emotions, which damages their self-esteem and undermines their ability to maintain healthy boundaries. Power plays in relationships often come in the form of one person trying to assert control over the other. This could manifest in subtle ways, such as trying to one-up someone or intentionally withholding affection to keep them invested. When you engage in power plays, you're not allowing the relationship to grow naturally. Instead, you're forcing it into a dynamic where one person holds the upper hand and the other is left trying to gain their favor. This creates an imbalance where the relationship feels more like a competition than a partnership. True partnerships are built on equality, trust, and mutual effort, not on playing games to manipulate the other person into doing what you want. One of the most significant consequences of manipulation and power plays is that they destroy trust, which is the cornerstone of any successful relationship. Without trust, there's no safety or security, and people will begin to close themselves off emotionally. When trust is broken or constantly undermined through manipulation, it becomes incredibly difficult for either person to feel vulnerable and open. Real intimacy can never flourish in an environment where manipulation and power games are at play. Both people must feel safe to express themselves and rely on the other person's word and actions, knowing that neither is playing games. Eliminating manipulation and power plays means committing to honesty, respect, and open communication. When we remove these games from our relationships, we create space for real, authentic connections to take place. Instead of trying to control the situation or change the other person's feelings, we allow the relationship to evolve in a natural, organic way. This doesn't mean that conflicts won't arise or that communication won't sometimes be challenging, but it does mean that both people are committed to solving problems together rather than using manipulation as a tool to get ahead. Embracing emotional self-sufficiency is a powerful act of self-love and independence. It means being able to stand on your own emotionally without relying on others to fill the gaps in your happiness or self-worth. When you are emotionally self-sufficient, you bring a sense of wholeness to any relationship. This doesn't mean that you don't need or want support from others, but rather that you do not rely on anyone to define your emotional state. You recognize that your well-being and happiness are primarily your responsibility. This kind of emotional independence allows you to enter relationships from a place of strength and confidence, not desperation or a fear of being incomplete without someone else. Emotional self-sufficiency starts with understanding that your emotional state should not be tethered to someone else's actions or behavior. It's easy to fall into the trap of letting another person's mood or attention dictate how you feel. For instance, if someone pulls away or becomes distant, you might start to feel insecure or anxious depending on their response to feel validated. But when you understand that your emotional well-being is your responsibility, you can avoid the highs and lows caused by others' actions. Instead of seeking validation or approval from external sources, you learn to affirm yourself, building a sense of self-worth that doesn't rely on others for confirmation. This doesn't mean you should suppress your emotions or pretend to be unaffected by what's happening around you. It means recognizing that while you can't control everything that happens, you can control how you respond. When you take responsibility for your emotions, you empower yourself to process them in healthy ways. If something hurts, you allow yourself to feel it without giving that pain the power to overwhelm or define you. Emotional self-sufficiency gives you the resilience to bounce back from challenges because you're not emotionally dependent on someone else to fix things or make you feel better. Another vital component of emotional self-sufficiency is being able to set and maintain boundaries. In relationships, this is especially crucial. If you're emotionally dependent on someone else to make you feel good about yourself, it's easy to overlook your own needs in favor of theirs. You may become afraid to speak up or say no, fearing that your partner might withdraw or become upset. But emotional self-sufficiency allows you to maintain healthy boundaries that protect your well-being. You learn to honor your own needs without guilt, which creates space for respect and balance within your relationships. This means that you no longer tolerate behavior that doesn't align with your values or that compromises your emotional health. Emotional self-sufficiency also frees you from the need to chase after affection or beg for attention. When you can provide your own emotional fulfillment, you stop looking to others to complete you. You enter relationships as a whole person, not as someone looking for validation or constantly seeking someone else's approval. Relationships based on mutual respect and equality become more fulfilling because both people come together to contribute to one another's happiness, not because one is dependent on the other to feel whole. Lastly, emotional self-sufficiency helps you to recognize and cultivate healthy relationships. When you no longer seek to fill emotional gaps or rely on others for constant emotional support, you can see the dynamics in your relationships more clearly. You know what you need and you're able to communicate that without fear of rejection. You also learn to recognize when a relationship is not meeting your needs or when it's not healthy for you. This clarity allows you to walk away from relationships that aren't serving you, knowing that your worth isn't tied to staying in unhealthy dynamics. In the end, emotional self-sufficiency is about being emotionally whole and strong within yourself. It allows you to cultivate balanced, healthy relationships where both people are emotionally available, yet independent. You don't need to chase affection or beg for love because you know that real connections are built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared emotional investment. When you embrace emotional self-sufficiency, you open the door to a life where you are in control of your emotional well-being, and the relationships you enter reflect that inner strength. When we stop engaging in the behaviors of begging, chasing, texting excessively, and playing games, we create the space for relationships to evolve naturally based on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. This approach allows both individuals to come together as equals, without the need for manipulation, constant validation, or emotional dependence. Relationships should be about building something meaningful, not about trying to outdo each other, win affection, or jump through hoops to keep someone's attention. Healthy relationships thrive when both people are willing to invest in each other, not out of obligation or desperation, but because they genuinely care and want to build a lasting bond. By letting go of these unhealthy dynamics, you invite clarity into your relationships. Instead of questioning whether someone likes you or if you are doing enough to keep their interest, you can focus on being authentic and true to yourself. This clarity allows you to understand your own needs, communicate effectively, and recognize when a relationship is mutually fulfilling. When you stop chasing or begging for attention, you stop trying to shape your identity to fit someone else's expectations, and instead, you get to show up as your true self. This authenticity fosters deeper connections because both people feel seen and accepted for who they are, without the fear of being judged or rejected for not meeting unrealistic standards. Additionally, stepping away from games and manipulation frees both individuals from the stress and confusion that often accompany these behaviors. Playing games, whether it's being distant to make someone chase you or pretending to be someone you're not, creates unnecessary tension and uncertainty. The unpredictability and mind games that come with these tactics only cause anxiety and keep people from forming a genuine emotional bond. By rejecting these strategies, you make room for honest, open communication. This approach nurtures trust, as both people can rely on each other's words and actions, knowing that there is no hidden agenda or manipulation at play. When you stop chasing or playing games, you also give yourself the freedom to focus on your own growth and well-being. Instead of constantly wondering if you're doing enough to keep someone's attention or affection, you can invest in your own passions, goals, and self-care. This independence and self-awareness make you more attractive to others because it signals that you have your own life and are not looking for someone else to fill an emotional void. People are drawn to those who are confident in who they are, who have their own interests and goals, and who bring value to a relationship without relying on it for their sense of self-worth. Ultimately, this shift in perspective allows for relationships that are based on balance and mutual effort. When both people show up genuinely and are not engaged in games or manipulation, they can truly connect with one another. This creates the foundation for long-term healthy relationships where both individuals feel valued, supported, and respected. When you stop begging, chasing, texting excessively, and playing games, you allow real love and affection to take root. Love that is built on trust, respect, and the mutual desire to grow together. This is when you experience the most fulfilling and authentic connections, where both individuals come together with open hearts and minds, ready to build something that lasts.